Poppy Coburn's here, assistant comment editor at the Telegraph. Poppy, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Two big stories, I suppose, today. Rachel Reeves is going to get up shortly and convince us all, or try to convince us all, that growth is the way forward and that she's going to create growth. But she keeps saying the words growth and economy and put them together, but she doesn't appear to know really how to make anything grow, does she?
No, it's a bit of a cargo cult, isn't it? You can't just be banging your hands on a desk saying growth, growth, growth and getting everyone in the room to chant it too.
Right.
But I think this ultimately comes down to the makeup of the cabinet, right? You know, she said she didn't like the nickname Rachel from Accounts, but there is a legitimate criticism that the vast majority of people on the Labour front bench have never worked in a real job.
Right.
They've all been lobbyists their whole lives. They've been in Westminster their whole lives. They don't know what it takes to run a business. I think that's pretty clear in this growth strategy she's putting forward. I think it's good things she's trying to build more reservoirs. We haven't built any since 1992. But ultimately, if you have Ed Miliband as one of the most senior figures in cabinet, the only one with actual real experience in government so far, who has said he is going to block everything to fit this insane net zero agenda. He won't allow the third runway for Heathrow. He certainly won't allow us to build any more power plants to try and meet our AI strategy. You know, this is all just a bit of a waste of time.
Well, it is really, and it's sort of more and more unconvincing the longer it goes on, isn't it? Because we've had 6 months of a Labour government, maybe 7, I suppose, if you count the Christmas holidays. And what we do know now is that the economy is a lot worse off than it was in June when the Tories were running it. And I don't hold any great candle for the Tories, but under them, the economy wasn't this bad.
Yeah, I mean, the economy was doing pretty bad under the Tories, to be clear. But, you know, the Labour Party said they are going to be changing. They said they would not be like the government that came before them. How many relaunches have happened in the last couple of months? I mean, it seems like every week Keir Starmer is saying, we're resetting government, we've got a new agenda, we've got 5 bullet points for 6 areas of change. It's like, OK, you can talk all you like, but what are you actually going to do? Now, if Rachel Reeves gets up there today and actually gives us some real action plans that are going to happen in the next 5 years, great. But I just don't believe that's going to happen. This has happened too many times before. It's all words, it's no action.
Yeah, it's all pie in the skies. It's all what we're going to do and what is coming in the future. What we do know is an awful lot of small businesses have certainly said to me that come April, they're going to be in a really bad place because they're suddenly going to have to pay more money to the people that work for them because the minimum wage has gone up. They're going to have to pay more national insurance for all the people that work for them. And many people have said to me, particularly in hospitality, it's going to wipe out all of our profits.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this again comes down to this public sector mindset that Labour have. I mean, that is their core group of voters. They know how to raise wages for people who are working in the public sector. But when it comes to the private sector, they haven't got a clue. They don't understand what it takes to build a business. So they think they can keep taxing. And it's somehow going to come out of the pockets of these supposed fat cats. But no, it's going to hurt the bottom line of the people who are actually working. And until she understands that, the economy will not get better.
Yeah. Do you suspect, as I do, that there's a sort of ideology that's planning or that sort of lies behind all the policies that the Treasury is trying to put out through Rachel Reeves, that, you know, they don't really like entrepreneurs, they don't really like business people, they keep making a lot of noise about, you know, let's bring in, you know, a sort of, you know, government of all the talents and all that, and let's involve investment in the country, let's try and bring everybody in. But it's all about public sector investment, it seems to me. They don't really understand private individual enterprise, do they?
No, they don't. And again, this is naked self-interest. You know, they've got to butter the bread of the people that actually vote for them. I don't even think it's just contempt. I think they genuinely don't understand how this stuff even works. And I really do think a lot of people who are working in the Treasury today think, well, they've never heard of the Laffer curve, to put it for one. You know, they think you keep taxing people and it will mean the government will raise more money. They don't understand if you take away the incentive to go to work, guess what? People aren't going to go to work. Take overtime.
Yeah, exactly. And also, if you tax the wealthy who can easily choose to go and live elsewhere, they'll go and choose to live elsewhere, which is exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's too late to now turn around and say, oh, actually, we're not so mean on Mondoms, and actually maybe we do want a bit of business investment here, and all those millionaires that are going elsewhere, we might need their tax revenue.
Yeah.
You know, too late. You've made it pretty clear that you don't care about these people and you want to create a hostile environment for them.
Yeah, and I think that is becoming more and more likely to be a problem for them. And we're told this morning that she's going to be speaking up in Oxford, apparently, and there's going to be a kind of demonstration, quite a loud demonstration, I think a last-minute one that's been organised by the farming community, because, you know, only one of the groups that's against what she's doing, but a very vocal one and a very powerful one.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that you mentioned what's happening with the farmers. I mean, I think this was one of the most extraordinary betrayals early on in this Labour government to raise such a tiny, piddly amount of revenue. I mean, let's not forget we do spend about £5 billion every year just on asylum hotels. Yeah. You know, if the government wants to make cuts to balance the books, there are areas that they can start attacking on, but for ideological reasons they won't. And it's so distressing to see small family farmers, you know, be the first people essentially in the chopping block and almost be ignored by the Labour government. I hope they keep making noise. I hope they keep standing up for the right to continue running their farms.
Yeah. But, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, so much pressure is sort of building on Rachel Reeves. I mean, I would say perhaps 2 weeks ago, I thought she was in slightly more danger of losing her job than I do now, because there is this kind of relentlessness about politicians these days. If you just hang in there for long enough, you kind of get to stay on. But, I mean, she's going to have to make some kind of budget statement by the looks of it in March. And, I mean, I don't think anyone with any brains whatsoever would judge her so far as Chancellor of the Exchequer to be anything other than a complete and utter disaster.
Well, it's also, you know, I was in America recently. You talk to people, you walk around, they're all pretty optimistic about the direction their country's going in. You know, anyone in the UK today who actually think the economy is moving in a good direction, that this Labour government actually knows where they're going, actually has a plan for change and reform. I don't. I haven't met anyone who thinks that anymore. And that is a really, really depressing thought for the future.
Yeah, absolutely right. And people are taking their money out of the country, people are moving their pensions around, people are genuinely sort of reacting to what it was that she put in that budget. And much of what she was hoping to raise, I think it's fair to say, is probably not going to come to the Treasury at all.
No, of course not. But, you know, I think Rachel Reeves is pretty lucky by virtue of the fact that there's no one really to replace her in the Labour Party. You know, I don't think there is an immediately obvious successor to her who would actually have any different ideas from her. And so, you know, Keir's kind of stuck with this increasingly hapless and unpopular Chancellor purely by virtue of the fact, who else? Who else wants to do that job? You know, who else wants to be the person to be raising taxes on everyone all the time? Because they're not willing to make the really radical action this country needs, a bit of shock therapy, to actually get the country working again. Exactly.
And the other big story I just wanted to mention is the population figures that came out actually yesterday around about this time, where we've learned that, you know, the projection for the next few years is that we're going to have 72.5 million people. I think we've probably already reached 70 million, even without adding up all of the people that we don't know are here, if you like. And that's going to be a massive issue, isn't it, as we go forward and as, you know, the government tries to stop the boats or tries to come up with some kind of plan, particularly as they watch what Donald Trump's doing in America.
Yeah, I know I've just been doomy and gloomy about the economy, but I really believe this is probably the most important political issue of our times.
Yeah.
That population increase is the size of 9 Manchesters in 5 years. Population size of 9 cities the size of Manchester coming into the UK in 5 years. Now, we know this because the ONS has changed the way that they are measuring people coming in, and the OBR has changed their projections, that many of those people will be a net deficit their entire lives. So not only are we telling young people, you've got to fit the tax burden for an ageing population, you've got to prop up the NHS, which is not fit for service, and you've somehow got to find productivity gains. You're also going to have to find money to support this new population, which are not coming in as part of an economic strategy, but because the government have basically forgotten how to close the border. They think it's the answer to everything. You know, oh, too high inflation, right, let's open up another visa route. You know, social care needs to be reformed. Oh, we won't do that. We'll just bring people in and undercut wages. You know, it is the answer to every politician now is more immigration, but we will all be suffering the costs of this in the years to come.
Yeah, absolutely right. Good to talk to you, Poppy. Thanks very much indeed. Poppy Coburn, assistant commentator at The Telegraph.